discouraged when we like opened the game and everyone instantly started dragging in free models.
I had a feeling that you would say that.
uh, I didn't really know where to start or what to do, and I'm sort of happy with the map that we had, but it's definitely too short a time period to do something I am proud of as like with the sort of the little amount of people building on this project that we had. We had like one or two builders and then what, five programmers or something.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Six
the intent
programmers.
to is the intent to make a game that we're proud of?
Yeah, that was my question as well.
Well,
Because I'm definitely not proud of any of this programming business. That shit was nasty, dude.
that's a good point, but uh, I the builders won't get much out of doing this if it is just putting free models together on top of terrain and then trying to fix how bad it looks with some lighting. Like, other than that, they don't have any creative control over the project, because we don't have the time to do anything more than that. But that isn't like a big deal. It's not to say that like it just doesn't work at all. But I think I definitely would have had a lot more fun if I was programming on a project like this than building.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
Because I'd be able to make something more fun in a shorter amount of time than you can with building like on its own. I don't, yeah.
I appreciate you trying to answer that. I I personally spent a good amount of minutes not really doing anything and just kind of flying around the map because the script that I had written was the disaster manager that cycles the different disasters, and so once that was done, it's I didn't have a specific follow up task, and so it was a lot of like, does anybody need anything? And then like zoom, like look at the map, maybe drag something here and there, and nobody really needed anything specific, and so I did spend a lot of time doing not too much. But I think that's okay. I like it was still fun, and not every second needs to be spent in an act of raw production.
Yeah, I think with the building thing, maybe it would help if there were multiple projects going on. And so there is like things to visually compare between the two projects.
Mm-hmm. What is an ideal 1 hour project for you then, after considering these problems as a builder? What would light you on fire if we said, hey, we're going to do this weekend?
It would be it would be an aesthetic style that everyone agrees would be good for a project, like decided beforehand, and something that isn't normally seen on Roblox. I'll find a reference.
Do you think that can be captured well in a single hour? Because from a programming perspective as well, like this game is as old as Roblox, and so there's zero innovation taking place. It's really just like doing the thing together, which is where the value. Like I think that we did this because we expected to get the most value. Like we acknowledged that the most value would come from just doing the thing with each other, and less about like being able to then behold what we've built and be like, look at what we've made in 1 hour. That's so amazing, and everybody's gonna love it.
Yeah, but you guys get to actually like test what you've built and test their hypothesis, but builders are just dragging free models around. Then they're not testing anything. There's no goals. There's just like, let's try and make the game fun with very limited resources. Yes.
Do you think it would be better if there were more builders?
Yes, as long as the builders agreed on the style they were going for. But like I was saying earlier, like if the whole team agrees on a style beforehand, then we won't have this whole thing of like, oh, there's a load of free models in a workspace now. Let's just use them and merge them together with like terrain and just try and make a pile of poop look pretty rather than starting from scratch and uh making something new and original.
So
Like with the like sorry, the specific like aesthetic style, I'm thinking like mobile games, the ones where you just like tap a button and your character jumps from platform to platform. Like that from a building point of view is just okay, you build one platform, you make sure the skybox is like white or like changes color or whatever depending on what zone or phase you're in, and that's it, and you can do that really simple thing really well. So like if with this disaster game, if the map was just made out of like a load of trampolines or something, then we'd just build one trampoline that's polished, or something like that.
mm-hmm. That's a fun idea. A little trampoline rocket fight. What y'all doing on Saturday? We'll vote again. We'll vote again. That's I like this. So the fact that we started off and immediately everybody dragged in a bunch of free models, that was pretty off-putting for you.
It made it a little harder for me to know what to do, because like if we already have buildings to test on, we don't need any buildings. Like it just sets the standard too low to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that that's particularly influenced by the type of project that we chose to do this weekend? Because when I think Survive the Disasters, I think like it's a big map full of a ton of stuff that's all destructible, and it doesn't really matter what the stuff is or what it looks like. It's really just about the fact that it gets destroyed, and the easiest way to do that is just to drag in a brick battle tower or something like that. So do you think that if we did choose a specific concept that was more narrow in its map, that maybe you can just say like, hey, don't drag in any free models, I'll take care of it?
The fact that things had to be destructible is definitely a challenge, because you can't build something from scratch that's destructible in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't necessary, which is why I was like, yeah, these like happy homes are great. And they looked great when they were like burning down, and so I think they were pretty perfect for this project. And as well, the deforming terrain and stuff worked really well. Maybe we could have done something more original with the color scheme, but yeah, well, like you said, a big part of it was the idea.
Mm-hmm. I think this was a good first 1 hour project to do because it's so insane. Like it's so like while we're making it, it's everybody's everywhere, everything is happening at once, and it's just super crazy, and that's kind of where the fun came from. But in the future, I can definitely see even in 1 hour us doing a much more deliberate, like surgical strike of a build in order to, like you said, test a hypothesis. Like something much more narrow scope is like trampoline rocket fight or um, what did Joe? I feel like you had one of them ideas that I was like, oh, this is a dead simple obby. Like that could. I feel like Builder would have a lot of direction over that. Give me a while back each coverage. But yeah, dead
So
simple
this,
obby. I feel like is pretty straight up. Like that's
mm-hmm.
you can lock that down aesthetically pretty easily. Even as programmers are maybe doing like kill bricks and moving things. The destructible is a big variable, which is because the fact that it is destructible adds so much, I think, to any game. Like having destructible maps is just magnificent.
What's so difficult about making a map destructible? Like, for low fidelity destruction, can you just put a bunch of stuff together as if it were anchored and then just select everything and create welds and unanchor it?
It's so like it just wouldn't look as good as something that's built out of lots of little parts. And building it out of lots of little parts takes time. So like if the happy home just on its walls were just like one big brick piece, and that one brick piece catches fire and turns black, it won't do much. It would just be like a black part that's still like structurally sound and everything. But like if one of the little parts caught fire, it blasts a hole in it or something.
That's very interesting. It's a open problem in 1 hour game jams, I guess.
Yeah. Unless we write a plugin that will shard up a large part into many smaller parts. Honestly, maybe not a bad idea.
Or accept the... Yeah, that's a whole discussion.
Mm-hmm. A live fragmentation system that works with explosions and fire and high impact.
There are plenty of games that don't require destruction, so I think it would be good to try to avoid that for some future jams.
But destruction is fun. It does put quite a strain on physics when we're doing a lot of it. Like I don't want us to stay away from destruction just for the building's sake, because it is a very fun mechanic.
You think that we can have both if we put less, if we attach less reward to how good it actually looks? Because like maybe this is not analogous, but the way that the game works, like I guess the like aesthetic of the coding, not in the way that it's written, but like in the way that it is presented in the game, is clearly suboptimal. Like using messages for stuff and having it go at such a fixed time step, and you know some of the disasters take really long and others should be really short, and like it was clearly not a refined product. And I think that we, like at least me personally, I was totally okay with that because I didn't attach any reward to how good it was going to look or like how polished it was going to feel. And that's what I think made it okay for me. But had I been like, I want this to be polished, then obviously we'd be a bunch of sad boys.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier, whereas like, I fully understand doing that with programming. Like for me, doing that with programming is fun, but doing that with building just isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not analogous.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, building Dissatisfaction is from making something new that looks good. Otherwise, there's no point in someone with a lot of experience doing it, and I guess that is analogous with programming. Like, we don't have to be the best programmers in the world to do what we just did. But it's definitely more fun. Doing that with programming than building, I think. But who knows? This is only one builder's opinion as well.
Mm-hmm. Damn it, Joe.
Chris, I think that for myself, I tried very hard to really, really absolutely minimize my expectations for the level of quality of the scripting of this game.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of opposed to even having the map regenerate because it's like it's a system, and I thought we were trying to aim for something playable in 10 minutes, and I don't think we needed the map to regenerate to get to an MVP. Like, my expectation going into this is very low. For programming in general, I really like very hard problems, like stream in a world at various levels of detail and like do a bunch of geometric mathematical tricks to generate meshes. But I'm not expecting that out of an hour game jam. So I don't know if it's like, it's hard for me to imagine anyone, including builders, really scratching their itch for really flexing their craft in something like this.
Yes,
So-
it's true. In an
So-
hour-long thing, but yeah, maybe if we did have like more builders, we would be able to do that more. Yeah,
That's a good
but
point.
I don't like on the. So we're not getting the fun out of like flexing our crafts. We're getting fun out of like testing an idea and putting an idea into action in a very short amount of time. But the builders aren't really doing that. Maybe just for this game, I don't know. But it doesn't really matter what the map is. Like the map is such a low priority in this idea in comparison to like disasters being programmed. And maybe that is the case with games in general. I don't know. Maybe not team-based games, but yeah.
Like,
Without the
maybe would it
satisfaction
be,
of carry on.
sorry, maybe it would be better if we did like a Flee the Vicinity type game as an example, because then there's a bit of map design and whatever that goes into that.
Yeah, the map is a big part of a game like that, which I think is cool. And I think in general, builders will be more down to do projects where the map is more part of the gameplay. Because like with the destruction thing, it is just like, okay, we need a sandbox area that can be destroyed, and that's there's literally nothing else. Like maybe there's one like a central point in the map, like the big tree house, but other than that, there's nothing.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, the fun is not so much testing the idea as it is seeing what we, just like watching what we build. And I feel sad that you are the only builder on this project because, like, I don't think that I would have had fun if I was the only programmer. And I don't know because I was not, but I feel quite strongly that like it would not have been interesting. Like, what is interesting is really quickly, I had to write like a service, and then everybody else is writing constituents of the service. So like, it was so fun to be like, all right, I'm gonna make this disaster manager, and you guys make the disasters. And then Alex had meteors, and Josh had fire and the plague, and other Josh had the hurricane. It was like that was what was fun about it. It's just like seeing what ends up happening. But if I were the only programmer, I think I would have just been sad.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we've got some good thoughts out there. I do have to head off to dinner. But if you guys have any like important conclusions or anything, write them down in the Discord. I'll check them out
Yes,
in a
sir.
bit.
Eat well, Chris.
Yeah. See you guys.
Thanks for
Thank
coming,
you.
man.
See ya.
Joe, tell me more about your experience.
Hmm. You said that you spent a lot of time flying around the map looking for work, trying to figure out what to do next. I was the same. I think that may be, how do I put this? I mean, this was my first time doing something on the time scale of an hour, so
Me too.
that I'll probably learn how to deal with this better as I do more of these. But yeah, finding work, I spent a lot of time thinking about like, oh, what should I do? And I'm not sure the solution to that, but one idea might be to just be much more aggressive in just like adding things and not telling anybody. And then we just have stuff. So there's, because how many people did we have for this? It was like
It's
7 or 8. Yeah. So it's, the overhead of communication is higher in this situation, relatively speaking. So maybe I should have just like maybe a self-organized like free-for-all structure would be better. Or maybe not.
Maybe this is fascinating. So yeah, this is almost exactly what I told Jenny. Because I said, Jenny, man, we missed you this weekend. It was super fun. It was way different and I think superior in a lot of ways to the multi-day unstructured game jam. And she said, why? And I was like, that's a good question. And I said, and I kind of love this, is that, like you said, the overhead of communication is high. Like the cost to discussing is very high. And so consequently, and I need to go back and actually watch the recording and I'll put it on a Google Drive so you guys can go back through it too. But it's a lot of like, is anybody doing this? And then there's silence. You say, okay, I'm going to do it. And people are like, do it. That's kind of it. It's just like, can I do this? And everyone says yes. So maybe we lean into that and it is more improv. And so we just yes and everything. And there is a lack of consideration for like technical constraints and lag and stuff. And I think that is going to cause some problems, but I think they're okay because like when you yes and everything, obviously you break the constraints of reality. Like in a legitimate improv scene, it's ridiculous, and not every improv scene is good. And that's okay, I think, to happen. If we do these often, then maybe there's 3 bad ones out of every 10. But each time, like even doing a bad improv scene is often fun if it's with your friends, you know, if you can laugh at it. And so I think maybe we lean into yes and instead of thinking, you know, what's going to be the perfect puzzle piece, it's really just, where's the spaghetti? I'm gonna throw it.
I like it. I think maybe maybe as we do more of these, we'll kind of get a better handle on what kinds of projects and how to structure them to better facilitate that. So one thing I've been thinking about is a natural way to let people work very independently is to have a big map and people work on different sections of the map. That can be done without stepping on people's toes very much. So, like one, oh, okay, hypothetical idea. What if we a theme for a game was Robot Wars, but the constraint is every developer has to build their own robot, and then when we publish the game, we have these 7 robots, and we each like jump in our robot and pilot them into battle, and they fight. And you can put whatever you want on your robot. You can put like flamethrower, anything like saw, hammer.
So this is less of a collaboration and
you can
more
be
of a
invincible if
competition.
you want. Yeah, this is more competitive.
That's funny. I like that.
But if you do that, then you can. That would actually be pretty cool because it's like, I don't know. Have you seen the game Plane Crazy?
Mm-mm.
Or any building game like Build a Boat for Treasure, or I can't think of any battling games where you like build something that you bring into battle. But it's kind of like that, except we have, instead of our tool being that game, we have Studio, and we can do anything that the Roblox engine allows, and we can build anything on the robot.
That would be insane. I can only imagine the crazy, like, reveal moments where we actually start and we fight, and somebody whips out what they built.
And Chris could make the map.
All by himself.
And then we go and battle on the map. But, so, okay, that's one idea, and just, but there are probably a lot of formats like this that are more favorable to people working independently that we could.
I think the disaster did pose a bit of an advantage there, in that people can make individual disasters, you know, like something that's modular like that. Now, the problem that arose because of that is testing. And I see that being a continued problem that we should probably discuss some solutions for. It's nice that all 4 of us in here right now were programmers. Because the testing was an issue. Like, Alex wrote his own weird bootstrapper thing, and then Josh was like, oh, why don't you put a value inside the disaster script that'll run a disaster automatically? And Alex was like, that's not good enough. I want to test them immediately. So then we had 2 different testing environments going on at once. And I think this was exacerbated by the fact that, like, the value object is an excellent solution, but it is shared from different people. And so I think a better option in the future would be to have a config script that you can modify, and that way you can test it in your local environment without committing, and each people can have their own little local test. That's my immediate thought. Josh?
I've had immediate thought as well.
Hit me.
You can access Studio user ID, which is unique to each user. You could use that to make like a dictionary. Like in this case, a dictionary of user IDs to the disaster that you want to test. So that every time an individual user hits play solo, then it'll look up their branch, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
That was my thought.
That is great for this specific game, I think.
I don't know how generalizable that is.
Using draft seems generalizable because if we have some kind of game logic, then you could just overwrite that whole script in any game that has a game loop, and just go immediately to your part.
Make the first line, if true, then return end. Because if you disable the script, then it disables for everyone. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
What do you think about the fact that it took us 1 hour to get to a playtest as opposed to 10 minutes?
Algae Lacey, what are you thinking down there?
I kind of missed the part where we were going for 10-minute playtest. I thought it was like finish after an hour and playtest
Oh,
at the end of
okay.
the hour. And I can say that the hurricane would not have been ready in 10 minutes. So, I think testing after such a short amount of time would only work if we role played it. And roleplay wouldn't really have worked as well with Disaster, like the game we had. It's like the Peanut game, we could have worked that out as roleplay. But with the Disaster game, it wouldn't really have worked so well.
Like 10 minutes is nothing. And I wonder how much could we really have done in 10 minutes that we actually get value from a playtest. And this is a proven concept, so we know what we're going for. So it's almost like what are the questions that need to be answered with a 10-minute playtest that aren't already answered. And I think James brought this up, that like when you're doing something that has already been done, you're not seeking to mine information about user behavior. And even if you did, that would take at least 10 minutes during a playtest. So then you've not wasted, but like now you've spent 20 minutes and 10 of them were not doing any production. And so I wonder if that philosophy maybe falls away a little bit after this one and we look towards the 50-minute playtest as opposed to the 10. I think it depends on the idea though. What do you think?
I think getting to a playable state, that amount of time depends on the idea. Like, if we had a race to the top of the hill, then you could get to a play test in 10 minutes for that and role play it and see who gets to the top. Just create a hill, throw in some free models, and then bam, you're done.
Don't tell Chris though.
Yeah, that conflicts with Chris's desire though. So I'm not sure how to reconcile that. But in theory it is possible.
That's true. Especially that we had so many people with all 7 of us playtesting. That's a full server, and it's pretty fun. You know, it's not a 2-man playtest where you don't actually really discover much.
I think that it may have helped us because when you and I were flying around looking for work, if we had done a playtest, this is back to the fundamental point that James and I have made, is even when you're copying a proven idea, you don't know which details of that idea are important to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So, doing a playtest helps you discover those details. For us, I don't know. What did we learn from playtesting our game? I think the map is kind of big.
Map is big. We
Bigger
did learn the intensity that needed to be adjusted on various disasters, and the time as well. A lot of like micro configuration things. Bubble chat.
Probably more disasters that were destructive of the environment would have been cool.
Yeah.
I think that the game might have been more fun if... So there are a few things that, now that I think about it. One is the disasters kind of happen far away from you, especially if you're in the safety of the treehouse. Like, you're pretty safe.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of just... You can't even really see the disaster necessarily, especially fire. Maybe that was a tuning problem, but we might have come to the conclusion we need to make the treehouse destructible because it's OP, or we need more disasters, or we need disasters that are more visible, like lightning striking where you can kind of sit in a safe place, but you can see it happening everywhere. So you're kind of, you feel more in the disaster.
Would we have been able to test all that if we did everything in a short amount of time? Not in a plan.
Were we there at 30 minutes?
I don't know. I need to go back and watch the video. That will bring a lot of insight, honestly.
I think the hurricane was done around 40 minutes, and by that time meteors were done, and I think fire was done as well.
The disaster service it's like a super trivial thing, and so it took about 15 minutes probably. And after that, I was kind of like, when I would hear somebody say, oh, add this to the disaster manager, definitely, I jump in and do it. But other than that, it was a lot of like, are there any odd jobs that we can do, like moving spawn locations around or making certain parts, like ensure that they're destructible and unanchored and stuff like that. And so my part of it was ready quite early, but I think that's due to the trivial nature of the task. Other tasks, and it required no tuning. Like it's a system, it's a service, and so it really is just the principle that you're building. There are no questions, right? Like there's no gradients that need to be adjusted.
Possibly for future projects. This may not work for all ideas, but for some ideas it'll work if we have kind of a type of thing that generally needs more of. So to clarify that with an example, in this case, we kind of could have always used more disasters. In the example Chris posted in Team Green about the obby with the different blocks that do different things, you can kind of always use different block types that do new things. And maybe if it fits with the idea, then we kind of have a preset thing of like, okay, if somebody has nothing to do, they can hop onto this and just like add a new one into the list. Like that.
That sounds sharp. Like to clearly establish, if you ain't busy, make another of this.
Yeah. And like it's not a kind of a thing where they have to get consensus. It's just kind of like,
do it.
Okay, I want to do a tsunami disaster. Okay, I'll do that.
I don't know why I didn't think of that. Like, why didn't I just make another disaster?
We could have had survived the 6 disasters.
It just never crossed my mind. It says survive the 5, but we only have 4 disasters. I'm not really sure. I think James's just intention was like, can you survive any disaster repeated 5 times? N equals 5 disasters.
Probably plague 5 times.
What, Joe?
James is just a marketing genius.
Oh, man.
We have at least 5 disasters in this movie.
That's true. That's true. I think that something that could be fun that serves the greater, perhaps, mission of this is creating very small, hyper-modular, like self-starting scripts for things that we find. And the knowledge of this will grow as we continue to do it, but like a map regen thing that is the perfect, like basically free model script that operates on a collection service tag. Spawn locations that automatically hide themselves during runtime but are visible throughout the duration of it. And James, I think, has some of this stuff built into Nevermore. But I'm sorry, James, I don't know that that's super accessible to everyone, especially in a hyper-collaborative project. So maybe like a library of drag-and-drop single scripts that we can just plunk in server script service that'll operate a lot of these things would be helpful here. Are there any other things like that that you can think of from this project or from Peanut Palace that would be helpful?
Like script specifically? Or
Yeah.
concepts?
Well, I
Perhaps
guess anything.
If we're doing
Grab
physics stuff, it's always cool to have a grab system to drag stuff around. Even if it doesn't have a gameplay thing, dragging stuff around is fun.
Agreed. Yes. I tried to integrate it, but I pulled it out as soon as I saw characters were not dying and just like
Right.
ragdolling.
Yeah.
I never figured out exactly what that was. I assumed that it was some conflict. It was either a problem with my system in isolation, or it was Quenty's system, because he also brought in a ragdoll system, or it was like some conflict with them interacting with each other.
Mhm.
And that was, I pulled it, I figured like, okay, there's no way I'm going to be able to diagnose this quickly. Maybe in retrospect I could have, but I don't know. I just
That was funny.
Like, thinking back now, it would have been cool if you could like somehow force a ragdoll on another player. And for example, if you knew where Meteor was going to land, you could ragdoll them underneath Meteor. Or like if they're on the ship, you could ragdoll them and they'd fall off and be blown off the map by the hurricane. So add like a kind of just a PvP element with just a simple ragdoll system would have been cool.
The taser.
How do you ragdoll somebody?
I don't know, just click on them or something. I don't know.
Somehow.
It's
Yeah.
like a trip tool.
Ah, yeah. Banana peel, baby.
That's cool. I like that. You could have like a banana peel tool. You drop a banana peel, and if somebody touches it while they are walking,
Mm-hmm.
then they slip.
Mm-hmm.
But if they touch it and they're not walking, they are fine, and they can click on it.
Like if you
instead
just
of
throw it
clicking.
at them and it hits them while they're standing, nothing happens.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
got like a detector or something, so they can pick it up
Mm-hmm.
and negate it. If they
I like proximity prompts. I think proximity prompts is strong for things like this.
Yeah.
Mm.
Especially because it's cross-platform and we can loop in mobile pretty quick. That would be perfect for a banana peel, I think. And the summer camp banana peel, I think, is quite exquisite. And so I can rip out some of that functionality pretty easily and put it in a standalone. But like that, I feel like, yeah, those are things like those herbs and spices, that are like so easy to sprinkle into a game but add so much flavor to it. Like, what are some more of those?
that's a great herbs and
Bubble
spices.
chat, I think. We need
Bubble
to
chat.
remember that.
Ragdoll.
Ragdoll. Dive. The summer camp dive. People are obsessed.
A pistol.
The pistol, yes. Yes.
Rare pistol is the key.
Hmm?
A rare pistol.
Oh, yes. Can you imagine doing an obby, and at the end of the obby there's a single pistol?
Ooh, that's a cool game idea. Race to the gun.
What about... So I feel like in this game idea, there needs to be some sort of counter, because otherwise you can just stand at the end with your gun and mow people down, and they can never get you. So I like the idea of having like hand-to-hand combat that maybe incorporates a ragdoll system, like evolved early Roblox sword fighting. Like, I love this idea of ragdolling somebody and then dragging their body and like throwing them off the side. Like, that's so fun. Hit him with a
I agree
banana
with that.
peel, and then that's fun. Obby with banana
Full
peel.
Diddy Kong.
What?
Full Diddy Kong. It's with the banana peel. Come off the edge.
Peanut gun, banana peels, and a jetpack. So I've been going back to my school's improv group, and it's absolutely phenomenal. It's so fun, and there are so many. Like, I never thought so deeply about improv theory, but there are so many principles that we leverage to like what makes a good scene. And I think a lot of these principles can be abstracted and applied to any sort of creative collaboration. And so some of the ones like yes and obviously is the most prominent principle. And I think next week or this weekend, if we really focus on yes anding things instead of having like dialogue about what we're going to make, that could be fun. Another one is there's this principle called twinning, where I don't know how this applies, but you see somebody doing something in a scene. Like, let's say a scene begins, and I'm over here doing this. Then somebody else enters and does the exact same thing right next to me. And it becomes so interesting because now there are two people doing the same thing, and how are they going to interact with each other? I don't know how that applies to games, but maybe it does.
What was the thing you said right before twinning?
Yes,
That was
and.
interesting. What was the other thing besides yes and twinning? Was there?
No.
Okay, sorry, my audio. Fuck.
Okay. But there's a third principle that is it's called the It's Tuesday principle. It's also known as over accepting something. So let's say I'm here in a scene and I'm brushing my teeth, and Josh comes in and says, "Oh my God, Mom just died." Instead of saying, or maybe something more simple like, "Hey man, do you want to order pizza?" And I go, "Yeah, I love pizza." You massively over accept, and then we say, "We're going to order 9 different pizzas, and they're going to have this, this, and this. And you know what? Let's get more people over. Let's have a pizza party." Instead of like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling it. You know, like maybe pizza's not my thing today. Like that's not interesting at all. But they they call it It's Tuesday because you can be doing something and then go, "Oh my God, it's Tuesday." That means that blank, like something so massive that you just remembered and it's earth-shattering. And so over accepting, I don't know, because does this apply? How does this matter? Lean into every idea, basically.
I guess we were kind of doing that the yes and thing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
With disasters, like, hey, should I make meteors? Everyone was like, yeah, let's do it. It was not really an and, but
Mm-hmm.
every idea was like, yeah, let's go for it.
I think that over accepting, I think that the It's Tuesday applies especially well in disasters because like it's way more fun to have a disaster that is completely obliterating everyone all the time than it is to have a disaster that is ineffectual. And I think we saw that with the fire and the meteors pretty clearly, that like both of them took some tuning, but meteors murdering everyone immediately is pretty hilarious, whereas like one meteor falling here and there is just so lackluster. Like we would much rather enjoy things at their extreme than at their minimum. And so
Yeah.
this does conflict a little bit with like a rare gun. Whereas if you over accept and it's Tuesday, everybody has lots of guns that never need to reload and can fire very rapidly.
Very true. However, the gun will like quickly ruin things.
Yeah.
It will dominate everything because people love to kill each other. I guess maybe that's acceptable in some cases. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what if you dropped infinite guns and infinite ammo into Adopt Me or Me Too? Like, it would mostly devolve into war, I guess, and chaos.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if anything else more interesting would emerge from it. Like, people go over to each other's houses where it's safe and form small trusted groups.
See, that's fun. That's interesting, man. And you can always tamper back if you over accept initially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just a quick side note about gun and the RB idea we mentioned earlier, and we're wondering how balancing it. We just have multiple pathways you can't see from the end. So like they all end at the same spot, but you can't see them all at once. And we just make the gun really slow firing. So then you have to kind of let certain people on, but you can kill certain people if you want to. Which is kind of the social play as well, because you don't have enough bullets to kill everyone. So you kind of like gotta let who you want in.
I think that at the time I had the belief that we would have been better off with a smaller group of people setting the direction of the thing, because it felt like we weren't aligned on a very clear single vision for what we were building to some extent. I mean, the idea is like, okay, we're going to make a disaster game, and there are going to be several disasters, but I don't know. At the very beginning, it was like, are we going to have vehicles in this? Like, what's going to be in the map? Is there going to be a style? Chris was asking this question.
Yeah, I think that's an important. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna watch the video of this meeting and I'm gonna distill some bullet points and I'm gonna present them to us in a channel so that we can look at them for the next time. But I think that's a good one to add. I just want to like quick sidebar and state it so that I know bookmark this in the video when I watch it back. Is that specific questions to answer, or like domains, like should there be an aesthetic? What is the style? That's something to address that was unaddressed before.
Yeah. It seemed like we had these open questions at the very beginning about the direction. And this, when I was doing the project, I felt like, okay, there's so many different ideas here for which direction we could go, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Like I don't want to like I was just pulling in free models willingly. I think
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, I was very aggressive about that at the beginning, and then Chris was like, guys, wait a second. So I don't know. I think that if we define these things better, then it's not a problem of having too many people. If we either kind of coordinate in advance, okay, Chris or whoever, how should we approach building? How should we approach selecting the style? How should we approach free models? If we know that, we're good. Or if we say everybody be totally autonomous, and we're good.
Yeah, I think that the latter works if you are extremely stoic about this process. If you attach no value or expectations to what anyone else is doing, and you're just completely happy with what you contribute in this 1 hour. But that seems like a lot to ask of people. So maybe we go with the former and we establish like a basic project checklist that every time we do one of these, we have to spend the first 5 minutes quickly hammering those questions. And one of them is like, free models, yes or no? What is the aesthetic? What is the task that anyone can always be doing? Like what is the adding a new disaster of this game?
Yeah. Great.
An atlas, perhaps.
Feel almost like having an aesthetic at all is analogous to having good code.
I also want to push back on that, but it's not my domain, and so I would trust a builder more at the end of the day. But I'm glad that you echo that thought.
It seems like Chris isn't very willing to compromise on his product, which is kind of the point of this whole experience, to compromise on the product and gain something in experience.
I think it's a necessity in a way. Otherwise, you will be upset.
I wonder if there is a mode where we can more separate building from scripting, where we aren't bringing in that many free models as to put content in the game, but instead we're more doing purely scripting to add features. That way, Chris and builders who care about style have more control.
Mm-hmm.
And they still have to compromise, but they can kind of choose that. So maybe we end up making a game where there's actually not that much stuff. Like maybe the map is very small and there's not many props,
Mm-hmm.
or there are a lot of the same prop everywhere
Mm-hmm.
that the builders place.
Yeah, that's good thoughts. I would love to get another builder's perspective on this.
This is a big question. Big
Yeah.
question.
This is, and I think it will continue to be informed as we go on. Maybe we talk to Chris beforehand for this next one and say, like, can you reconfigure your approach to this to devalue the product and embrace the improv of it all?
I think it's possible to achieve a stoic attitude at scale. It's just like a wavelength that everyone needs to get on. But
Mhm.
it feels to me like it is not too much to ask. Or not that it's something you're asking for, it's an attitude that you're setting.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm.
How do we set the attitude?
Culture cascades down.
Culture cascades down.
Culture cascades down.
We must make sure that our
Culture cascades down.
we must make sure that our mental, emotional inertia is too strong to be diluted from anyone, but rather is infectious.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a principle that applies to any interpersonal interaction. In order to bend another's energy, your own spirit must be unbendable.
It sounds like a line from an anime.
Do you know what it's from?
Probably Avatar.
Yes. It's from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And you know what else? It's on this that I used to wear around my wrist every day.
Ew.
I would remind myself of this when I put it on in the morning and meditate on this idea. Do you agree with this?
I do not give a flying toss about the quality of the game that we make. I only care about completing the very narrow goal that we set out to do.
Yes, I agree. I'm not here to make the most polished game. I'm here to have fun with friends and see what game we can make in the process.
That's it. I think that perhaps the more we do this, the more people will start to realize, like, oh, you know, this is low stakes. And so perhaps as we do it more, it will occupy like less of a magnitude. You know, it will just become more casual. I don't know, that's my hope, but we move forward. And I think I'll try to do a better job of creating that energy rather than hoping that it exists.
Yeah.
So are you guys on board with creating like an atlas that we write at the beginning of each go round? Like the way this would look is late Saturday night, we all hop on our Discord call and we bring up the like Google form, and I'll share screen or something like that, and we'll one by one go down and answer each question, and then we have this atlas that is set in stone, and we can look at it. And you probably won't ever need to like look at it because you'll remember the responses, but it just serves to get alignment on some key questions. Do you guys think that we should implement that this weekend?
Sounds good.
Yes. I feel like it would be good to have a I don't know. We should avoid this taking too much time out of developing the game, I think.
Oh yeah, I think it's like 5 minutes max.
That's good.
Like 30 seconds per question. Like if it's free models. Chris, you're on the clock. 5, 4, 3, 2, next. Aesthetic. Chris, you're on the clock. 5. Maybe less extreme, but yeah. No, I'm totally with you. I think this is rapid fire.
I think that's great. Maybe I don't know. I feel like we need to become more aligned during the offline discussion on the goal of low stakes and low quality. But that's separate from this Atlas idea, which I think is good.
What do you think a next step would be in order to achieve greater alignment on low stakes, low quality? Just send that message every day in the announcements channel. Low stakes, low quality.
At the very least, I'm sure we will end up talking with Chris the next retrospective that we do. It's just like, I don't know, in general, how do we talk about pros and cons of how we're doing this in this voice chat, but every time we bring in somebody new, how do we download all of that information to them?
Yeah.
Maybe they could be present for retrospectives, or maybe or maybe this what your YouTube series can do. I don't know. That's actually great, because anytime somebody is joining some new group that is already doing something and already has a culture, then seeing an example of a previous iteration of what you're about to do helps get on board very quickly, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, if nothing else, then we could at least synthesize a very quick onboarding video that has some snippets of what we have done, and then some of our retrospective, like, hey, this needs to be low stakes in order for us to actually leave happily. Otherwise, we'll just be disappointed. And the whole objective of starting this thing in the first place was to leave us happier than when we walked through the door. You know, it's like the daily grind is already a bit of wear and tear, and we want to revitalize ourselves. So I like that. Yeah, I've been resting. I've been a lazy girl. So I'll wake up today. I'll put my eyes up on this footage. We'll make something. I like this Atlas thing. I think this is strong. And I like video production. Fellas, this is great. I will send the invite for 9 p.m. Eastern time. And we will see what happens. I'll also drop a ping, clean up prompt voting a little bit. Yeah?
Sounds good.
Feeling good?
Hyped.
Fellas on 3. 1, 2, 3. Fellas.
Fellas.
Ooh.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming. Super fun as always. I love each one of you. And I will see you Saturday, hopefully.
Cool. See you guys then.
Hope their trickles down.